I never imagined I'd become the person my own daughter despises. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake wondering where it all went wrong, how love turned into resentment, and how the man I once called my soulmate ended his life because of choices I made, choices I thought were necessary for my own survival. I'm not trying to paint myself as a saint. I made mistakes, terrible ones. But I also want to be understood, not condemned outright without anyone knowing the years of quiet pain that led to those decisions. My husband and I were married for over 2 decades. We were young when we tied the knot. I was 20 and he was 24, and back then I thought I had everything. He was dependable, safe, and kind. But as the years passed, what once felt like comfort began to feel like a cage. Our marriage turned dull, passionless. I didn't want to admit it, so I buried myself in routine, in motherhood, in holding the house together. And then 3 years ago, everything crumbled. He was diagnosed with a debilitating chronic illness, something that slowly drained the life from him. He couldn't work anymore. He was always in pain. He stopped being a husband and became a patient. Every day, I came home from my full-time job only to cook, clean, manage the bills, care for our teenage daughter, and tend to him. I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was suffocating. And no one asked how I was doing. Not once. Then Jake came into my life. He was a coworker, 10 years younger than me, full of energy and charm. At first, he was just a friend. Someone who asked about my day, made me laugh, complimented me in small, unexpected ways. He made me feel seen for the first time in years. I didn't mean for anything to happen, but it did. We grew close, and I told myself I deserved something for me, something that brought me joy. The affair started slow, full of guilt and self-justification. But eventually, I couldn't deny it anymore. I wanted out. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life as a caretaker. When my husband found out, he begged me to stay. He offered therapy. He sobbed. He said he couldn't do this without me. But I was done. I needed to live. I moved out. I didn't think it would destroy him. I truly didn't. But it did. He kept calling, sending long messages, telling me he loved me, that he needed me, that our daughter needed me. And then 6 months later, he took his own life. The call came from my daughter. She was 16. She'd come home from school and found him in the garage. She called me in a panic, sobbing so hard she could barely speak. And I froze. I didn't rush over. I didn't handle it the way a mother should. I just said, "I'm sorry, but this isn't my fault." And maybe it wasn't, but maybe it was. She hasn't spoken to me since. She moved in with her grandparents and refuses to take my calls, answer my texts, or even acknowledge I exist. She blames me for everything, for his death, for tearing our family apart, for choosing Jake over him. And she's told the world her side of the story now too. I read her post. She wrote about how her father was her hero, how he stayed up late helping her with homework, how he made her laugh even when he was sick, how he never gave up until I gave up on him. She described how I checked out of the marriage, how I started coming home late, snapping at him, treating him like a burden. And worst of all, she told the world that I didn't even show up after she found him, that I left her to handle the police, the ambulance, the grief. Alone. She's right. She's not exaggerating. I told myself I needed to be free, but in chasing my freedom, I burned every bridge behind me. And now, the daughter I raised wants nothing to do with me. Jake has been my only support. He's tried to convince me I'm not a bad person, just someone who made a choice to live. But the truth is messier than that. I miss my daughter. I miss the family I once had, even if it was broken. And just when I thought I was finally moving on, the past hit me again. This time, it wasn't my daughter, it was my sister, Vanessa. Vanessa, the golden child. Always charming, always adored by our parents, always somehow landing on her feet no matter how recklessly she lived. I was the responsible one, the one who followed the rules, who never asked for anything. 2 years ago, Vanessa was engaged and planning an extravagant wedding she clearly couldn't afford. I was quietly saving for my own small wedding with my fiancé. Then, out of nowhere, my parents accused me of stealing thousands from Vanessa's wedding fund. I was blindsided. I didn't even know she had a wedding fund. But she had fake screenshots, doctor transfers, and crocodile tears. She told them I had betrayed her, and they believed her without question. They disowned me. The entire extended family turned against me. I was branded a thief and a liar. My cousins blocked me, my aunts sent angry texts, and Vanessa got everything she wanted. The wedding, the money, the sympathy. I got nothing. Just silence and shame. But I rebuilt. My husband and I had a small but beautiful ceremony. We bought a house. Life was quiet, stable, and good. Then, 2 years later, my mother called begging me to come over. When I finally agreed, she broke down crying, confessing that Vanessa had lied about everything. There was never a wedding fund. She had a gambling addiction and used me as a scapegoat. My dad looked ashamed. They said they wanted to make things right. But then came the real reason. They wanted me to forgive Vanessa because her life had fallen apart. Her husband left, her debts piled up, and she was back living with them. Asked if she'd even apologized. My mother said, "She's not ready yet." Not ready? After ruining my reputation, cutting me off from my entire family, and lying so convincingly that I was left isolated and heartbroken, she wasn't ready? When she finally entered the room, she acted like we were just catching up. She offered a half-hearted, "Well, you've got a great life now, right?" Like that excused what she did. I looked at my parents, expecting them to step in. But they just sat there, silently complicit. Again. I walked out. I knew then they hadn't changed. Vanessa would always be protected, and I would always be disposable. But the final straw, the moment I truly knew I had to cut ties for good, came at Christmas. I'd sent gifts ahead of time for my young nephews, worried I might not make it. Same wrapping paper, my tags. But when they opened them, my sister had slapped new labels on top. From Santa. She stole my gesture of love and made it about her fantasy. I confronted her. She shrugged and said it was for the kids. When I called her out in front of the whole family, she collapsed into tears again. Played the victim again. My grandfather sided with me. My grandmother tried to rug sweep it. But I refused to stay silent. I gave the boys each $50 and demanded repayment. A week later, Vanessa came to my door with an envelope. She handed it to me, muttered an apology, and her husband told her to quit making excuses. Maybe losing her fun money for the month will teach her something, but I doubt it. She's been pulling stunts like this since we were kids, shaving my head in my sleep, signing me up for disgusting magazines, spreading rumors about my sexuality, and no one ever stopped her. So now I've stopped it myself. To those listening, maybe you think I'm cold, bitter, unforgiving. But until you've lived with betrayal, abandonment, and manipulation from the very people meant to love you unconditionally, you don't know what survival looks like. I've chosen peace. I've chosen distance. And that is something I'll never apologize for again. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, or if you've faced similar betrayal from those closest to you, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Do you think I did the right thing? Would you have forgiven them? Let's talk about it. And if you found this story moving, please like the video and subscribe to Kindle Stories for more powerful, real-life stories shared from the heart. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, peace is worth protecting.